Hi, and welcome to the Bytes and Bits Learning to Code courses. My name is Bob Grant, and in this video I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get set up and running with these programming courses, even if you're an absolute beginner who's never written a line of code before. Programming your own games is great fun, but sometimes learning to code can be a bit tedious. A lot of courses take you through each of the programming techniques step by step, using very small stub programs to illustrate each point. But these programs never do anything really interesting or useful. So what I'm going to do in these courses is really turn that all around. We'll start by writing some code which is fun. And in fact, we'll start just by writing a computer game. And as we go along writing that game, we're going to meet all of the different programming structures that we need to make our code work. So things like using variables and arrays, loops and control structures, and so on. We'll meet all of these different things, all of these different techniques as we need them writing our game. This video then is really a quick start guide. We're going to begin with a totally fresh computer, and we're going to install our development system on it that allows us to actually write our computer games. And then we'll program a complete version of the Pong classic totally from scratch within 25 minutes. And the finished game that we're going to end up with will look a little bit like this. I'll be doing everything in real time on the screen as we're going along. I'll also be explaining what's happening so you can get a gist of how we put together programs and the sorts of coding techniques we're going to be using. The explanations I'll be giving in this video are a bit briefer than in the real courses, where we really go into the fine detail of what we're doing, how it works, and why we're doing it. But even if you've never written a line of code before, you'll be able to use this video and pause it and rewind it as much as you want, and you should be able to follow me along and type in your own version of this Pong game. To help you as well, I've listed out the complete code, so if you're viewing this on YouTube, have a look in the description below, and that will take you to my website and the page for this particular video on the website, and there you'll find a complete listing which you can have a look at. So if you make any mistakes, you can have a look at that and read it much more easily than reading it straight off the screen. But don't forget, everybody can learn to code. It's not that hard. It can be great fun as well, and these courses where we write our own computer games, you'll have loads of fun learning all of the different programming techniques. So let's get that timer on the screen and let's get started. To start writing our game, we need to download some software tools. And the tools we're going to use is a program called TIC80. So if I go to a website, tic.computer, this is a fantasy console which has got all the tools we need to start developing our games. So I'm going to go to the Create menu, and then down here there are a range of files you can download depending on what type of computer you're using. So I'm using a Windows computer, so I'm going to download the Windows version, and it's going to ask me to download that, and I'm just going to save it onto my desktop to make it easy. And that's coming down now. And there we have it on our desktop. So if I show that in folder, I've got my zip file there. So the zip file contains the actual program file. If I double click to open that, I can then drag that onto my desktop. And that's my development system fully installed. There really isn't anything else to do. If I double click on it, sometimes Windows will come up with a little warning saying that it doesn't recognize the app, and that's because we've downloaded it directly from the tic.computer site. But if I go to More Info, I can say Run Anyway, and it will now recognize the app and run it for me. And I should now have my TIC80 development system all ready to start programming. So let's zoom in a bit so we can see a bit better what's going on. So we're now in the TIC80 development system. If I press on the escape key, I get into my coding system where we're going to type in the code. By default, TIC80 loads in a demo program. So I'm going to take some bits out of that, and then I'm going to just change a few of these bits at the top. So this game is going to be called Pong, and the developer is me. Again, you can put your own name in there. And it's just a Pong game. And it's written in a coding language called Lua. Okay, so when we go through on the real programming course, you'll learn all about these ideas, but we're going to create a couple of variables here which are going to tell the system a few things about TIC80. So it's going to tell us how wide the screen is. We're going to say how tall the screen is, and that's going to be 120. Our game's going to need a ball, so we're going to create another variable. So a variable is just a way of storing some information, and this is going to be what's known as an object variable, and again we'll learn all about those in the course. But this then allows me to collect together a number of variables inside another variable, which lets us create this thing called an object, and that lets us then very easily deal with this bit of code. So let me just put all these in here, and y speed equal to 1. So we've created now a ball variable. It's got an x and y position on the screen, and it's got an x speed and a y speed, so a left-right speed and an up-down speed, and that will make it move around in diagonal lines and so on. So we also need a bat, so we're going to create another object which is our bat variable, and that's going to have a position on screen, and that's going to be at 114. And again, once you learn how to code in the course, you'll understand what all of these bits and pieces mean. And the speed at which the bat moves then is going to be 4. So we've got all that in place. We're going to have a score on screen, and we're going to start the score at 0. Okay, so this sets up all the data storage for our game, and we're creating a number of variables and a number of objects which are going to represent our bat and ball. Then we go into our tick function. So a function is just a block of code, and we're going to need to do some moving of the bat and ball here. So we're going to start off by working out how we're going to move our bat, we're then going to clear the screen, and we're then going to draw the bat on the screen. So those are two function calls, which we're now going to have to write those functions. So let's come down here and let's write our function move the bat, and that's the end of our function. And the move bat function then, what we need to do, we need to test a couple of buttons, so the left and right buttons. So we're going to say if button number 2 is being pressed, then that's going to be moving to the left. Okay, so if button 2 is pressed, then the x coordinate of our bat, we need to take away the bat's.speed. So in other words, our x coordinate is going to be made smaller, so it's going to move the bat to the left. We're then going to check for the right hand button. So if button 3 is being pressed, then that's moving to the right. So we have the x coordinate of the bat is going to be added to. So we're going to add on the bat.speed. And we're going to end that. Now we have to check if the bat has reached one of the edges. So we're going to say if the bat x coordinate is greater than, and remember we created that screen max x value, so if it's got to the side of the screen but then just a little bit inside the edge of the screen, then we're going to make sure that BATX doesn't go off the screen. So we're going to say screen max x -8. So that's it going off the right hand edge of the screen. And then we're going to say else if, so bat x is less than 0, then we're going to say make sure it just stays on the edge of the screen, bat.x equal to 0, end. Okay, so that's some code there to move our bat around. So we check for the right hand button and adjust our x coordinate, left button, adjust our x coordinate, check for it going off the right hand edge, check for it going off the left hand edge. If we look at our code up here, we move the bat and then we need to draw the bat. So let's come down here and we need a function to draw the bat. Okay, but before we draw the bat, we actually need to have a bat to draw. So let's jump into what's known as our sprite editor, and by default that has got some of the demo stuff in it, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And now we can just draw little sprites in here. So I'm going to draw a bat sprite, and it's just going to be like that, and it's going to be 2 sprites wide. So I'm just going to draw it other in here, and you can see that as I draw it, we have our bat being previewed over here. And this sprite editor then lets you design all of the characters and like Space Invaders and spaceships and whatever that you have inside your game. And we can then very easily draw them on the screen from our code, which is what we're going to be doing next. So our draw bat function then, we're going to say draw sprite, and it's sprite number 0, and we want to draw it at the position on screen for our bat, so bat x, dot bat y, and then there's a couple of other values after that which control the way in which it's displayed. So we're just going to do it like that, and again, once you start to do the code, you'll understand what this means. So we now have code to move the bat and draw the bat. So let's just see if that actually works. And there we have our bat moving around the screen. So let's come back in here. And I think I got one of the numbers wrong here. Yes, so I need an extra 0 in there. So again, we have it, so 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 1, and if I do that now, we've got a slightly bigger bat. Okay, so that's what we need to begin with. And again, I'm just pressing the escape key to run between things. And if I want to run my code, I can either press Control R, or I can come out to the console and type run. Okay, so there we go, I'm back into the code. So we've now got our bat going around the screen. I guess we need to work on some other bits of the code. So let's see what's next then. We need some walls to go around the screen. So let's come in here and let's create a function called draw walls, and then down here a bit, let's draw those walls. So I'm going to create a function draw walls, and we can just use simple line commands, and these will draw lines on the screen. So I want to draw a line from 0, 1, 2, 7, and that tells us what color to draw it in. So from 0, 1, 2, 7 to 0, 0, these are all coordinates on the screen. I'm then going to draw a second line from coordinates 0, 0 to coordinates 2, 3, 9, 0 in white. So 15 is white. And then the final wall is from 239, 0 to 239, 1, 2, 7, and that's in color 15 as well. So again, these are little function calls to the line command, and we give it a set of parameters, so the first point, the last point, and the color to draw it in. So if I press Control R to run that, we now have our bat inside our little sort of squash court to escape and back into our code. So let's start getting a ball going around the screen here. So again, before we start working the ball, let's create a ball. So I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to create a ball, and I'm going to create it in this number 16 slot down here. And I'm going to then make just a little simple ball and tie that up in a second. So let's just get that going in here. And let's just get black in here and just tie that up a bit. And like that. And there we have just a simple ball. Okay. So back into our code. So we're moving the bat. We now want to move the ball. So that it starts working around the screen. So let's come down here and move the ball. So another function, move the ball, and end that function. And the ball then, we've got our X speed and our Y speed. So the ball X value gets updated each time by adding on the ball X speed. Oh. And the ball Y position gets updated every time by adding on the ball dot Y speed. Okay, so that updates the ball moving, but of course it's now going to need to bounce off walls and so on. So we need to just check then. So if the X position of the ball is greater than this idea, the screen maximum X position, so if it's gone off the right hand edge of the screen, then we need to make sure it doesn't go off the edge. So we're going to set it then equal to that edge value, and we're going to make it bounce. So it was traveling off the screen to the it was traveling to the right and going off the right hand edge of the screen. So we now need to just reverse its direction. Okay, so that needs to be obviously X speed as well. So we basically said if the ball goes off the right hand edge of the screen, then make it stay at the right hand edge but reverse its direction, so reverse its X direction, so that it starts going back to the left. We then want to check, and we're doing an else if statement here. So again, all these if statements and everything, you'll learn about that in the code. So else if ball.x is less than 0, so it's gone off the left hand edge of the screen, then we want to make sure that our ball X value stays at 0, so it doesn't actually go off the screen. And again, we want to reverse its direction. So we simply say reverse the value of its direction. Okay, so we now have our ball then reversing off the left hand edge of our screen. And let's end that. Okay, we then want to do the top of the screen. So we're going to say if, and then ball dot Y, so its Y position is less than 0, then we're going to say ball dot Y, we're going to make it sit at 0, but we're then going to reverse its Y speed. So ball dot Y speed equal to it reverse direction, so ball dot Y speed. And we're going to end that. So that gives us the code to move the ball around. We now need to draw the ball on the screen. So let's put our call up here. So let's say draw ball after we draw our bat. And down here then we can create our function to draw the ball and end our function. And we're simply going to draw the ball sprite. Remember, we drew the ball into sprite number 16, and that's going to be at the ball.x position and the ball.y position. So we now have our ball being drawn on the screen. So if we run that by pressing Control and R, we will see that our ball comes straight down the screen at the moment. And if we skip out of that and back into our code, if we go up to the top, we'll see why it's coming straight down the screen. Because we've set our x speed to be 0, so it's not moving left to right, it's only moving down the screen. So 1 will make it move down the screen. We could set that to be 2, so it'll go quite fast across to the right, and we can see if it actually bounces off the wall then. So if we do Control R, and we can see it bounces off the wall. You'll also see that it bounced straight through our bat, so we also now have to fix that bit. So we've got it doing all of our drawing and so on. So moving the bat, moving the ball, we now need to check if it's hit the bat. So we're going to do a check hit function. So let's go down here to the very end again, and let's put in that. The function check hit, and we'll end that. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we're going to do here. And this one's a bit more complicated. So we have to do a couple of tests in here. So we're saying, so first of all we say if the ball.y speed is greater than 0, and that means the ball is actually travelling downwards, because we can only have a hit if it's travelling downwards, then we're going to need to do something. So let me put an end statement in there. And it's very handy to, if you do an if, to put its end bit in straight away so you know where things are. So if we're inside this statement, okay, so we've checked now where the ball's moving in the right direction to form a hit. We then need to test if the ball.y position is greater than the bat.y position minus 8. Okay, so we're really just saying, is it now hitting the top of the bat? Okay, this is what we're doing now. So there. So it's a little bit above the bat. But we also have to say that it's actually not too far down the bat. So ball.y is less than bat.y. Okay, so that tells us that the ball is now just sitting on top of the bat. And again, we need to end that if statement. So we now know the ball's travelling in the right direction. It's now just sitting at the top of the bat. So we now need to check if it's actually going to hit the bat or not. So we're now going to say, so if ball.x is greater than bat.x minus 6, so that means it's not too far to the left. And it's also then ball.x is less than bat.x plus 22, so it's not too far then to the to the left either, sorry, to the right. And let me just make sure I get the brackets all correct there. Then, and make our end statement there. So at this point, the ball's going the right direction. It's just above the bat, and now we've detected that it's just above the bat's position, so it's actually going to hit the bat. Then what we do is we say our ball.y speed, we need to reverse that because we've actually got a hit. It's the minus ball.y speed. And let's see what happens with that. So that should now give us a bat that works. Let's run that Control R. So it comes down, and we've now got our ball bouncing off our bat. And of course, if we miss, then it would just travel on down. Okay, and that's our game over. So I press escape and back into our code. But at the moment it's a little bit easy because the ball will always bounce at this diagonal value. So let's put a little bit of randomness in here so that our ball can bounce at different angles. So when we have a hit on the bat, let's say that our ball.xSpeed, we're going to alter that. So we're going to do ball.xSpeed, and we're going to add on to that a little bit of a random number. So we're going to do math.random, and we're going to make a number between -1 and 1. And let's see if we can run that and see what happens. So it comes down and we miss. So let's try again. It comes down and we hit, and you can see that the ball's X speed there changed. Okay, so we now have it being a slightly more interesting game. Okay, so we're getting close to finishing now. Let's add some scoring in. So we know that at this point here in our code, the ball has just hit the bat. So at that point, we actually want to update our score. So that scores a point. So we add 1 to our score. But the score isn't being displayed yet. So up here, we have our score. So we're drawing our walls, drawing our bat, drawing our ball. Let's print out our score. So at this point here, we are printing out our score on the screen. So we want to print, and we're going to print score equals, and then we're going to print out the value of our score. And we're going to print that just inside the walls at the top of the screen. So let's try that. So let's Control R and try that. So as we come down here, there we go. We have it scored 1 point, and so on. Okay. So one very final thing to do then, let's add a little bit of sound to make our game just that bit more interesting for people to play. So we know that sounds will happen when the ball moves and it hits walls. So when we move the ball then over here, so we know that at this point it's hit one of the walls. So we will make, it's one of the side walls, so we will make a sound effect, and the sound effect we will make will be sound effect 0, the note will be 40, and it will last for 5 long. And again, those numbers are all part of our TIC80 software. Okay, so this is another side wall here, so that will have the same sound effect. So 0, 40, 5. And again, as you learn to code in our courses, you will understand what all these bits mean. So this is now the top wall, so we'll make that a slightly higher pitch. Okay, so let's see what that does. So let's do Control R and run that. Okay, so we just need now some sound effects for when it hits the bat. So we need on our check hit function down here, we know this is where the ball has hit the bat. So let's come in there and let's do our sound effect. And let's make this a lower note. And let's run that and see what happens. And there we go. And that is our finished Pong game. So pressing escape to get back to our code then. That was a very fast run through of how to program using TIC80 and to develop our games. The real courses then, as we work through, I will actually explain everything step by step. So in this one here, it's really been a matter of just showing you that all we're doing is typing in some code. We're going to be learning about variables, which we're doing here, about functions, about conditional statements like ifs and so on. We'll also learn about loops and arrays, but everything we do will be at a much slower pace, and I will explain everything as we go through. But again, that is a complete game programmed from scratch, including all of the graphics and all of the sounds, all in one go. So, if you've been following through and typing this in, again, I do advise you do that. Have a go at typing it all in, and just pause the video as we're going through. I now have a game in my computer, but I haven't yet saved it. So I'm going to save this game as Pong, which is really what it's a copy of. So if I click on Save Pong, that has now saved it. So if I want to, I can come back and load that and then start working some more on it at a later time. Well, that's your first computer program completely finished. We've now got the Pong game going. If you haven't, don't worry, it's going to be something simple. Just have a look at the code listing that I provided on the web page that goes with this video. If you're looking at this on YouTube, just look in the description and you'll get a link from there. Just go through your code and compare it with my code line by line, and it'll really just simply be a typing error or you've missed out a comma or something. It'll be very simple, and just fix your code and then try running it again and you should get the program working. So hopefully you've seen that coding isn't that difficult. You might not understand everything we've done so far, but that's what we'll learn in the real courses. So I do encourage you, please do have a go. Go and find the Space Invaders course. I'll put some links on the screen and also in the description below. And have a go and have some real fun writing your own computer games. So, see you in the next courses. Bye. Don't forget to visit the course pages for this project. There you'll be able to download the code for this lesson and get lots of extra hints and tips. You'll also get access to all my other programming, electronics and gaming projects. All the links are in the description below. For more games programming, electronics projects and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website.